Oh, hello. Welcome to episode 40 of the Clutch Kick. I am one of your hosts,
Oh,
EG. Yeah, episode 40, I know, right?
yeah, Jesus Christ. Who would have thought that we would actually bother to go for
I
this many
know.
weeks? And we've probably destroyed YouTube's servers with the amount of, just crappy content, I guess.
I don't know. Have you seen some of the shit that gets on YouTube?
Yeah, that's fair, but our shit goes for hours.
I know. Anyway, co-host for tonight is Greg. We don't have any planned guests, but kind of floating this idea of trying to get some, I guess, random callers on, maybe, for short time. I'm not sure how that would work. Haven't
Yeah,
really
I think
thought
we
it through.
can hang up on them if they. I think we can hang up on them if they go on for too long as well.
Oh,
I
okay,
don't think
yep.
it's too difficult.
So anyway, we should be streaming on YouTube and Facebook. I'm going to try through YouTube anyway, see how that goes. Otherwise, the better stream would probably be the Facebook one, because Greg's streaming that through
Well,
NBN.
no, it wouldn't because I'm putting other things in front of everybody's face right now.
um, so this week in the news, we had a few things going on actually. So
Yeah, I got a
locally,
car.
oh, did you?
Yeah, I got a car.
What did you get? You didn't get your old car back, did you?
I didn't get my old car back. Still no
No.
news on that. And I contacted the cops this week, and they said, "Oh yeah, we'll be in contact. We'll liaise with the other police station that's got all my shit."
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing. Still nothing. Still nothing. But I bought a 350Z.
That one that you were talking about.
I
The
don't know.
really pretty looking one, isn't it? The one that will pick up all the chicks.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've had to do a few things to it to make it less
You didn't get rid of the lights,
rice
did you?
box. I did indeed pull a whole bunch of lights off it. Do you know what I
And
found? They,
what?
the dude had put like little spotties, drilled them, just randomly drilled them into the bottom of the aluminium crash bar, and they sort of pointed out through the front grill, except they weren't hooked up and they were glass, so they were just getting smashed by rocks and shit like that. So I was like, "Fuck is this shit doing in here?"
What is that? You mean
And
pointing out or pointing at the grill?
nah, like they would work, but yeah, just sort of they're glass. They shouldn't be 15 centimeters or 30 centimeters off the bloody ground. Like they're just getting absolutely hammered. And then there's LED strips still underneath the car in weird places and shit like that. So it's a little bit of a rice box, but
No, the lights at the bottom, they look cool. If I guess I don't really check if they're glass or not normally, but the lower the lights are, the lower the car looks at night. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen that?
yes,
So like a
you
car's
put like
cruising to you, and then you like look at it, and then you got the normal headlights, and then you've got the bottom left, the little flog driving lights. If they're really low and wide apart, then the car looks low. Never noticed that?
yeah, but so like you're telling me I should get a couple of just like little spotties and just put them like at the bottom of the car, so at a distance it looks like my car is literally a Matchbox car driving down the road.
Yeah.
All right, well I know how they do it in Canberra now.
No, they just talk about it in Canberra. They don't actually do anything.
Ah, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, but that having this car means
Actually,
that I'm gonna be at Jake's final Wakey Bash for 3 years.
oh, nice. And we can crash into it.
I'd rather you don't, because
See?
at this stage I've got to try and drive it home, so it's not going to be on a trailer just yet. It's street driven, so please don't run into it too badly.
But
I
we
think
we can hit it.
I think just be nice, or like help me find another set of doors or something. But it should have a lock diff and lock spaces in it by that event, and that should be about it. And a good service.
So, what else is done with the car? Did you get rid of that scoop? It had a scoop on it, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it's got like some little crappy air intake thing cut into the front bar. If you see the backside of it, it looks like somebody just used their teeth to try and cut a hole in the front bar. It's got those vortex creators on the roof. You know how like the Evos have those little like
Yeah.
like the little it's got them, and the dude rattle canned the roof black. So
Oh,
it's
does that mean you can clean
got
up
all
with
the,
acetone?
I
Because
don't
if
know,
it's just
but because it's got
acrylic,
those
you could just you just
maybe.
it's like nail
It
polish.
depends. Yeah, but it depends if they sanded it back or not. Because if it's sanded back underneath, then even if you clean it, it's going to look real
Does it?
crappy.
Does it look like a guy that would sand it back?
I don't know. It's not really a risk I want to take just yet. So we'll see.
Okay.
We shall see. And then I got to work out how to Tetris as many wheels in there as I can. And I've busted out my old really crappy roof racks that I had on the 14 that I will have to run a ratchet strap through the inside of the car just to make sure that they don't come flying off.
Someone can bring down your wheels for you.
I don't have enough friends.
Jake should be on his way down at some point. You can just chuck it on his trailer. His trailer's huge.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see how we go. But yeah, look, I'm going to be back in the seat.
Nice.
Just don't hit me.
Ugh, you said I could before.
Not yeah, but just Look, just be nice to start with. Let me have a few nice laps.
That's why you can't drive road cars in a train.
Yeah, I'll try and be sensible, but I don't want to be Nick and just keep hitting the solo line all by myself. So.
Stabbing everyone tonight, aren't you?
Wait, I am taking absolutely no prisoners tonight.
Okay.
Straight on the stir.
All right.
But yeah, so that's good news, and I've got a few other bits and pieces coming, but yeah, I will start looking at more suspension stuff in the near future. But yeah.
I wonder if I can. Sorry, I was just thinking it might be a good idea to bring up the YouTube stream so then I can see comments if they're coming through.
You got none.
Got none? All right.
Nah,
cool.
nobody likes you, mate.
Okay. I thought we might have some comments from Blake, but I guess not.
Yeah, Daniel, I will not be fitting 4 16-inch wheels in the car because it's one with Brembos, and I don't think they'll clear the brakes.
If you have lots of spaces, it will.
Yeah. Just like hang out the side of the car and like the wheels don't even go over the top of the brakes.
Man, I can bring it. So it's just normal 5 stud, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they'll need to be 18s. I'm pretty sure.
18s.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I don't know if they'll clear the brakes, or maybe they will on the rear, just not on the front. It's got Brembo's cars. Oh my god, it's massive.
Yeah, you can fill in the rears. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
17s.
Yeah,
I've got heaps of 17s here. I can bring some for you.
All right. We'll see. Well,
Oh no, you're come down. You gotta come down.
I might be down there on the Sunday, mate. So chillax.
Yeah.
Chillax, mate. Slow your roll down, mate. All right, and then
what else?
Well, no, that's it. That's it for the car for now.
Oh, okay.
See what happens.
All right.
And then national news.
Holy
Rally
moly. Okay.
Drift Championship wrapped up on the weekend.
Yep.
We got with a bit of a judging panel change. I think you've got the results.
I do not. I cannot access them. Plain test your shit. Sorry.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Actually, you've gotten worse.
Try and pull them up.
So if you're watching on the YouTube stream, it would be really, really bad at the moment.
You're leaving me high and dry here, mate.
Okay.
No, Dylan. Take this. I'm getting it. Dylan, take this in. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I know the last event was won by Will Yardley.
I don't even think I can. Yeah.
And
Have you got it?
I'm getting there, man. I'm getting there. We are so organised. All right. I'm almost there.
What was the guy's name?
So the championship ended up being wrapped up by Barry Clark, which is not really a surprise. He's pretty
I think-
synonymous with that
I think
track.
he was leading, wasn't he, the whole season?
Yeah, he looks like he's pretty much been leading from the get-go. Well, he finished second in the first round, but Grant went up there and wiped the floor with everybody with round one and then didn't go back again. But yeah, Barry finished on the podium all 4 rounds and took out the championship. Brock Stevenson, who jumped out of his VU Ute this year and into an S13, ended up coming second, jumping over the top of Ron Lang in the final round. Brock ended up having car dramas and jumping into Paul Alexander's Running Hearts S13. I don't think that Brock's ever driven a car with Wisefab, and he didn't get any warm-up laps. And from the video I was sent, went out and killed it first lap out in a car that's pretty different. Not power delivery-wise is really similar, but jumped over the top of Ron for that placing. Will Yardley ended up, after being hit at almost every round, won that round and ended up 4th in the championship. And overall seemed like pretty strong championship. One of your teammates headed up for that last round as well, EG?
Yeah, he did.
You're a man of many words.
Well, I didn't get very much information back from him anyway, so I think he collided with Senna. I'm not sure how. I actually don't know the details, so. And then he had some other issues getting home. I think you know as much as I do.
You're a wealth of knowledge today, mate.
Yeah, I know. It's hard. It's really difficult. People aren't very free with information around Canberra for some reason.
And so then Produced Auto had their Spring Jam up at Port Macquarie, and that seemed to go off really well. They're talking about doing another event next year, potentially with some night drifting, but I don't know how much. That's just rumour mill and how true that might be. That would be pretty cool there if that was to happen. But that's the first full 2-day event. I guess Bring the Bash was a 2-day event sort of as well, but it had some super motor mixed in with it, but that seemed to go off really well. There was also Drift Fest down at Malala, and off the back of Solly's comments last week, the entries have been opened for expressions of interest for guys who want to drive that test event at the Bend. A few guys have had car dramas who you'd expect to drive that event, so I'm sure they'll be on the hunt for some drivers. Like Dale Campaign's got a motor down in pieces now because something happened with a wastegate line and it cooked a whole bunch of spark plugs. But lucky for him, it looks like the bottom end is pretty well in one piece, and just got to redo a head. And Nathan Greenhill let one of his crewmates who helped build his car drive his car, and then managed to keep up with it in a pretty stock 32. So that to me was a pretty good example of driver skill over a built car. So a dude builds a crazy 6-figure car and then goes and chases his own 6-figure car in a couple of $1,000 car and
nice
for speed. So good driving from Nathan there, and might be worth selling the 15 and just driving the new 32 then.
New 32.
Well, yeah, he just ran out and bought a street registered 32 to get to the event.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I thought it
Yep.
was when people were talking about it was the old 32.
Nah, that I'm pretty sure that's still in pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I don't think anything else. High tech entries have opened for Goulburn.
Yeah, last round of high tech entries are open, and Top End Drift. Oh no, there was a big one over the weekend, but we'll bring that up next. Top End Drift Association has announced their calendar for 2019. Their State of Origin, their annual State of Origin event is in July again, 5th to 7th. So anybody interested in going up for that, it's the only time that you can drive Hidden Valley, and it's a multi-day event on the main circuit. So that's a big one up there again in July. So I think a few of the SA guys will definitely hit that one, because that'll be once their summer series is over and pre-DCA season, once all that stuff's locked in. Before we forget, D1 WA actually wrapped up on the weekend, and surprise, surprise, Australia's own international driver Mitch Lana ended up winning the championship by a fairly good margin. So that was good to see. He ended up actually building a KE70 with a V8 as well, and didn't drive that in. He didn't drive that in the competition, but he ended up just driving that on the practice on the main circuit, and then in the competition on the skid pan drove his 34, and then laid a massive rodeo burnout, which was sick to see.
Where do you get time to watch all these videos?
Mate, this is what Facebook's for.
Yeah, I know, but like I can't.
Well,
I struggle to keep up with everything, and you seem to be on top of everything.
yeah, you gotta love it, mate. You gotta breathe it, and
Yeah.
then stir people up.
Oh.
I think that's pretty much the national news on that one. I don't know if you saw it. I didn't share it last night in our group chat, but D1NZ is pretty much locking in their dates for next year, and what is normally there, since they've been able to go back to Pukekohe, has been their final round, has been moved to round 4, so the second last round, and they're going to run a triple challenge, they or triple crown type thing, for different racing series. They'll do their top sort of 3 events of the year, and whoever wins, if you win those 3 events, you sort of win the triple crown or something like that. So they've done the first 2 rounds and then round 4 as part of their triple crown. And Pukekohe this year is going to be, when you buy a ticket online, you get to pick a driver, and 20% of the ticket price goes to that driver.
Yeah, I heard about that. That's cool.
So
that's awesome.
Look, I'm going to be a little bit of a cynic on it. It's not going to equate to what people think it's going to equate to.
What do you mean? Like they're expecting a large amount of income from it?
Well, I think people from the outside are gonna. I think the drivers themselves will be really realistic about what it actually means. But look, I can't say that I don't think it's a great step in the right direction. And I think that may have actually been an incentive of the ticket company, more so from just the way that the wording was said in the little advertisement. That it's the ticket company wanting to sort of, that's their sponsorship back to the drivers type thing. And I think that's a way to try and get drivers to promote the event, which I think is good. So if you were to share a link, or if you watch an Adam LZ video or something, and you type in the promo code and you get 10% off or whatever if you use his promo code, that's potentially how the ticket sales for the Pukekohe round will go. So it's incentive for the drivers to try and promote the event, but in promoting the event, they're also getting some sort of direct payoff if people who are going to the event end up buying the ticket under their name.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you, like, I can understand you pick a driver, but wouldn't it be beneficial if everyone shared the money equally, like as in all the competitors?
Yeah,
Because
that's why I feel like it's potentially being done more off the back of maybe the ticket company. So rather than D1NZ directly, that we'd have to suss out a little bit more info on that. I think as the season sort of draws a little bit closer.
yeah,
Uh,
maybe they'll try it out and see if everyone just puts all their money into one guy, then it might not work out,
yeah,
kind of thing. So they'll have to
yeah, and
revisit
like
that.
look, V8 supercars and stuff in Australia, the teams own like a good percentage of the actual business itself. So any sort of ticket sales and all that money coming in the gate, a certain percentage is going back to the teams already because they're stakeholders in the series, and maybe that's the sort of thing that they're sort of dipping their toe in the water to test that out. But yeah, we'll definitely see what happens with that. But yeah, definitely a good incentive, and uh, it'll be interesting to see how that goes, uh, and the fact that it's not their final round this year.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But
Yeah, I think is that just for one round or is it for
no,
the whole
that's
season?
my understanding from that is just the Pukekohe round. I think the other venues are really expensive for them to run because they do the custom tracks and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Look. Honestly, we'll see. Like I know I sound a little bit cynical on it, and Jake's just made a comment in the Facebook stream that the top guys will get a few of the top guys will get all the money, and then the rest will sort of miss out. But look, the reality is at a lot of drift events that it's a lot of friends and family first and foremost that end up in the crowd. So if they pre-buy tickets, they'll be putting it on their driver's name, which will give everybody probably a few dollars each, and then any of your sort of fans who have travelled to come and see the show will that will directly impact probably your bigger name drivers. Or hey, the reality is you're talking round 4, so if somebody stands up early in the season and has an impact and makes a name for themselves, it's a great opportunity that for that round they're able to make some money off it if
Hmm.
they help push it. So it was the first round, yeah, look, your big names like your Fangers and you'd think your Jenkins brothers and all that would probably have a few guys swinging some money their way, but by round 4 you'd hope that some guys have been able to do some good marketing and put their
Yeah.
name out there, and that's how they'll benefit from that.
Yeah, because I guess some of those guys, I don't think they'll be lazy, but they won't be as active as some of the other guys who really need the money, and they might, those guys might actually chase that sort of income, and they'll do a lot of marketing and a lot of promotion to take advantage of those sales.
Yeah. So yeah, look, definitely excited for D1NZ season to start because it's one of the few things that it's easy access in the southern hemisphere during the off season in the northern hemisphere for us to access. I know there's a bunch of stuff that goes on in South Africa, but it's hard enough to follow drifting as it is. So yeah,
South Africa. Okay, I didn't realize you follow that stuff as well.
no, there's a lot of stuff happening over there too. So yeah, lots of crazy stuff.
Cool.
Oh, and yeah, at SEMA Formula D for next season was announced, and there's basically been no changes to the scheduling. The only thing is, my understanding, Pro 2 won't be running at Irwindale for the final. They'll be running around at Orlando Speed World instead.
So Irwindale's still
I'm not.
open.
Yeah, Irwindale's still open. That's got a long lease again
Okay,
uh, for
because
the
they kept
final. So
extending that, didn't they? 1 year at a time, and then they said this is the final.
no,
This is
and Yeah, and even the year that I went to the final to watch, that was still the same deal there. They weren't sure what was going to happen, and even in the local newspapers when we were there, they were talking about the fact that there was a strip mall going in there and uh, all that. When just down the road, there's a beautiful, actually two beautiful malls next to a really expensive horse racing track. So I'm not sure why in the middle of industrial area they would shove a mall, but yeah, it's America. That sort of explains it, I guess.
Okay.
So yeah, no major changes. Just yeah, no Pro 2 final at Irwindale. It's yeah, the schedule sort of moved over to having Pro 2 run at Orlando Speedworld again. I think just logistically it's cheaper and all that jazz rather than having the guys who are sort of struggling a little bit to be on the big bank at Irwindale.
So do you know? I know there was some posts by Josh Robinson at SEMA, but is he still going to be running next year? I didn't really know. I just saw him do big, massive
So
burnouts or
yeah,
something.
yeah, he did a he did a huge burnout where he blew the tires off it and blew the rear guards off the Ute in the Hoonigan area. But yeah, at this stage, it sounds like he'll still be competing next season, and I would imagine there's a good chance that he'll still just be driving Pro 2 unless he can get. I don't think he finished high enough in the championship to get a Pro 1 license, and it just depends if he was able to retain his Pro 1 license from the season before, because this season wasn't very good for him. So
Okay.
yeah, that's just a waiting game on that one to see what he ends up doing. But yeah, I felt like this season his social media game wasn't as strong as last year, so uh, that sort of yeah dropped off a little bit. Um, and yeah, I think that's yeah sort of leads us into D1 GP final over the weekend, as well as the FIA Intercontinental Drifting Cup. I didn't watch uh, the D1 section at all.
No, neither did I. I was helping Rob move, so and we had to do a
But
bit
I
of
know,
shuffle around with cars at my place to fit his car in my place.
okay, so I know Yokoi ended up taking out the championship
Yep.
in the D1 championship, but he ended up destroying his S15 big time twice
Yeah, over
during
the
the
weekend.
intercontinental. Yeah, during the
Yeah,
intercontinental event. I'm pretty sure the car stayed straight for
D1.
the final round of D1, and then in the morning of the intercontinental the competition, he put it into the first corner wall, and then during one of his first qualifying runs, uh,
Nah, the car was
did
stuffed.
did
Yeah.
the same thing, and yeah, that it was a mess. But I guess while we're still on him winning the D1 championship, it just shows you how good of a driver he is and how versatile of a driver he is. Because when he was over in the US, getting used to the US tracks and doing all that, he drove really, really well. And then now it's only I guess the end of the second season of him being back doing only D1 GP, and he's managed to win that championship. It'd be interesting to see him now take the same car back over to FD and see how he goes, because 2 more years under his belt, a better driver, and see how he fared, because he already fared really well in the first place over in the States. But it would be good to see him get a program together and be able to go back over with his cowboy hat and take it to the Europeans who are dominating FD currently.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Wasn't he actually not allowed to run because of sponsorship? It's not that he was struggling. I thought he had sponsorship issues
Was it?
where how FD tightened the tire sponsorship or tire sort of regulations or advertising thing,
Oh, yeah.
and I
No, they
think
didn't tighten
that's
it. They- yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. So, FD didn't tighten their rules. The rule exists already, but Yokohama pulled their series sponsorship, so that meant that couldn't run Yokohamas
okay, that's what
anymore
happened. Yeah, okay,
unless
yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Because
yeah, and
Yokohama was sponsoring a couple of guys that Yokohama's Michael Esser, uh, and I'm not sure who else. I definitely know Michael Esser was on Yokohama's when he won the
yeah,
championship,
that's right.
and yeah,
Because
Yokohama made it.
yeah,
I'd be interested to know too if the reason Hancock pulled out from last season was after a year of Yokohama being out. They were like, oh well, you know, we don't see the sense in spending the money here if a couple of the other major tire manufacturers weren't bothering. So
because they went over to
I guess for anybody who
basketball,
does,
didn't they?
yeah, look,
That was really
people are
weird.
doing. Tire
Yeah,
companies are in funny tires are in funny places. Toyo Tires is all over UFC, and
yeah, it's crazy.
Destino is all over a couple of soccer teams. So
Yeah.
yeah, it
Well,
just
yeah, it's all advertising anyway, the sponsorship. So
and it's like I said, and so they don't really care for motorsport too much anymore if they can get their name seen in a more major sporting field or in front of more viewers, then that's worth more money to them. So
yeah,
look, a bit of a shame, but I wonder if under the right program that Yokohama would spend the money to go over, but they'd probably want to see guaranteed sort of results. So basically, to run a tire in FD, the tire company has to series sponsor Formula Drift, and then those tires have to be available if people want to be able to purchase them. So that's how, that's sort of how all that works. And as soon as your tire manufacturer who's been supporting you or gives you a whole bunch of budget to run comes in, then you're basically stuck. And guys like Yokoy and all that got pretty stuck when that happened. And I guess even last season, Forsberg, when Hankook, who was a long-term sponsorship, pulled out, struggled to begin with, but then another company jumped on board. So yeah. So the FIA event went from running DOS at the first event last year and went to a more traditional, I guess we should say, judging format for this year. And I know you've had a bit to say about it.
Me? Yeah, I was against. I think, like I said before, I think DOS is not a great system, but I think it would be a good system in the future. Like run in conjunction with judging to a point. So it's nice with DOS. It's nice to have a set of numbers that pretty much can't be sort of subjective or like manipulated by emotion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people were against FIA and saying how shit the event would be because they're running DOS, and so they got rid of that. I think from what I heard, Brian Lontaine actually went to the FIA headquarters and had a meeting with them there to get rid of DOS. And I think at the end of their meeting, they were meant to have some sort of thing where agreement where because I've only been told this secondhand. Apparently, it was mentioned in Maximum Driftcast that they will still run the DOS system, and then they'll, as well as the judge scores, and see if they're similar. And if they were similar, then it's actually feasible to run DOS.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that?
I don't know. No, I didn't hear. I just saw the little bit of an interview from Ryan with Alexi during the actual broadcast.
Oh yeah, and I was annoyed about that as well. Because to me, like initially, everything, it's that sort of mentality that thinks that they're like, even when you see posts on other groups and other pages where they're saying that the DOS system is the worst. They need to bring back human judging, and then how Ryan created that post, and the way I read his post to say that if the event's shit because it runs DOS, no, it's because it runs DOS, and it's not my fault. Like, he's not even trying to improve it, and he wants to like change it dramatically. And so I don't know how everyone feels about how the event went, or what they thought about the event, but to me, I don't think it actually added or took anything away having the judging system changed. There was, to me, there were some really funny calls, and I think having the DOS system based on a computer would be more understandable to a point. But there is no actual, like, to a point when I say is a computer would already have someone like preset things, and then whatever if the criteria is set, it'll shoot them the score. But then in this event, it was all judged, and there was no feedback from the judges. To a point where there was some, but it was like sort of relayed between people and the commentators. So that's why I thought it didn't, like, when people make comments to say it was better or worse or like it's still shit. It's almost like they just don't like it anyway. They just sort of came in with this pre-thought.
Conceived ideas.
Yeah, preconceived idea. So it's anyway, and that's what the problem with Ryan Lontaine was, especially in that interview where to me he seems really ignorant. He's saying that the Japanese drivers or the other drivers have no idea about this non-DOS system, but you look at like where they came from and all the other things. Where the other countries, they don't run DOS. They run a judge, a set of judges, and they do the judging. They have clips like what he said. So he's saying that the drivers are getting used to this system where they already use this system. It's not. He's just sort of already come in with the mindset that the DOS system is used everywhere.
I guess my understanding from last year was that he had a huge, Ryan, one of the judges, had a huge involvement in the early stages of, even getting the FIA to look at drifting seriously and then trying to run the event. And then there was a lot of talks and meetings and sit downs and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know if he was expecting FD to get the event necessarily, but he himself had put in a lot of effort. And then after all those meetings where he thought that was the direction it was going to go, then before last year's event, last minute, it changed to be a DOS system. So I think that's probably where his, I guess I would say, almost over-the-top reaction by writing that post, basically being like, if the event is shit, then it's not on me type thing, was based more around the fact that it wasn't the direction that he had been working towards, I guess, and trying to help push for, a more traditional style judging, or, I guess if it had been said from the get-go that it was going to run DOS, then he probably may have taken some form of step back or just tried to come up with ideas to improve or something, but instead he was a little bit shafted on that one. And then this year, they decided to switch to a more traditional format. But I know a few of the FD drivers originally had said they weren't going to attend after last year's if it was going to run under DOS, but I don't know how transparent some of the judging stuff was. I looked at the regs for sending a car over there, and it didn't really, it more sort of gave a criteria to stuff that you had to have met to be allowed to be eligible, and then, car standard stuff more so than what the actual format of the competition itself was going to be. So
yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? I think there's a lot of hearsay information going around, and I think one big one was that they didn't invite any FD drivers, but it was a process where you apply and then I don't think they would have rejected. Yeah.
No. Yeah, and anybody from Australia could have actually applied. Like it didn't even have to come through a, a governing body or anything like that. You don't have to have even driven high tech DCA, Vic Drift, Teeter, anything. You don't World Time Attack to have applied to try and get over there. There's just a good chance that if you haven't done something or but I guess even if one Aussie driver had applied, if the car looked like it was up to scratch, there may have been a chance that they would have taken them because they're just trying to, get their numbers from all different countries. But I'm not sure anybody from here actually applied to do it. So
yeah, I don't know.
We wouldn't know, but I would imagine for a lot of the US guys, the fact that it's the week of SEMA as well, and that's where they have to get the knee pads out and lube up their sponsors.
Yeah.
So timing wise, it just fell a little bit short with. It fell short with those guys and their scheduling. So that's the major reality on that one. I was honestly pretty surprised that none of the D1NZ boys headed over, but I thought maybe somebody like a Gaz Wider or somebody like that might have tried to make a program work to go over there. But I still just think for a lot of people that it's not. Yeah, it's potentially just not worth the effort and the money.
Yeah, I think it's the money.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because one of the guys I really, really liked from the weekend was the Czech guy in the BMW, basically one of the Eurofighter spec BMWs.
Yeah.
Do you know which one I'm talking about? The black one.
Yeah,
with
the black
red
one.
signage down the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought he was probably one of my favorite drivers of the event, and I think
he was wild.
He was wild. And I think and one of the commentators was also Czech, I'm pretty sure, from that series.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to figure out. I couldn't tell.
Yeah, my understanding was that he was Czech, but I'd just be really interested to know, did the Czech sort of drifting community have a part in getting him over there, or is he somebody with money who sort of decided, hey, I want to go over to this event? Because I think all that sort of stuff has influence, because there was guys from sort of countries that you wouldn't, I guess you just wouldn't necessarily suspect that would be their first choice to head over to an event like that, like Switzerland.
There was a guy
Belarus.
from Mozambique, wasn't it?
Something like that. Starts with M.
Yeah.
I think of it.
Yeah, it was that seemed really weird. Like I've never heard of a drift scene there, so I don't know if he's drifting somewhere else and he just sort of originates from that country and he decided to enter the event.
Yeah, and then I'm pretty sure the deal with the Team Korea guys was, I think that was a bit of everything. Them trying to do national pride stuff. That had the guy in a Hyundai, and just trying to get themselves out there. And back on the FD announcement, they've announced FD will be running. I guess is the name for the new Korean series. So I think they're running 4 rounds out of the same track in South Korea in 2019. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I would imagine it's a bit like FD Japan, where there's already a company organizing the events.
Yeah.
But they're just using the name and sort of, I guess, some of the knowledge at hand and the name to sort of leverage themselves. I guess we'll go back to the DOS system judging stuff for now, and then we'll talk about some other things I want to talk about on that event. Yeah, honestly, I don't think it makes a huge difference to the event all that much from what I saw, and that sort of, I'll take it another direction in a little while with why I think it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. And the funniest part was, as soon as it got wet, nobody was really running that first wall. I actually thought it seemed like a little bit of an unnatural line, and there was actually a comment made that it was a second gear drift track anyway. Pretty much, I think it was a third gear entry and then down to second, and then you stayed second the whole way. So it's funny that. Yeah, no, it's fine, but it's just funny that for years that everybody was having a whinge about the fact that High Tech was running figure eight and it's a second gear track, and then the World Drifting Championships, I guess if you want to call them, was run on a second gear track, and so was the final for, you know, the world's second biggest series. Yeah, there we go, mate.
Okay.
So, so yeah, I don't know, but to me it didn't make that much of a difference with some of that. Did D1 run the layout backwards pretty much from what?
I actually didn't watch any of D1.
Okay.
I heard someone say it was a different layout, and that's what I said to you was, yeah, it was a different layout. But I'm actually not too sure. Maybe someone can comment if they know. But yeah, so what my understanding was, it was two different layouts. One for D1, one for
Yeah, my understanding was that it's just backwards. 'Cause I
IDC.
think,
Yeah, because they don't want any of the guys competing in D1 to get a practice advantage out of it.
which is fair.
Yeah.
Because, well, and it's more that if you're a good driver, it shouldn't make a difference. But at the end of the day, they're trying to. This is still an event in its really in its infancy and its building stages. So, yeah, I guess they don't want to upset anybody and not have people come back, because there's a good chance that people won't come back if they're not happy with the event.
Yeah, I actually wonder if the D1 guys will actually get the event again or ever. Because I think there'd probably be more interest from the FD guys or even the guys that run Drift Masters.
Yeah, look, it's you sort of wish in some ways that the FIA could rotate it, I guess, because I think that's how it would work best. But it's hard when there's no international sort of governing body, and the FIA is that governing body. But unless they're going to put a full-time task force or that group gets sort of together, but you'll have your, I guess, your brains trust, which is your Ryan Montaignes and a few other guys who sort of make the sporting side of things work, but then it's the production side that has to work, and that's, I guess, probably where they're a little bit worried about handing it year on year to different people. But you could probably get a pretty good rotation if they've picked a format. You could probably rotate pretty well between your FD guys, your D1 GP guys, or I guess you could always use. I think it's the MSC guys who are FD Japan, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you could use MSC in Japan, which means you're affiliated with FD anyway, and then you could use your Drift Masters / IDC, BDC guys over in Europe to run the events there. But I guess if you want a really good event too, it seems like the Russians is where next year's World Championship should probably be held. The only problem with getting to Russia is the fact that it's just really expensive logistically to get cars and stuff up there, where if you keep the destination a little bit more central, then it's a little bit more realistic to get more international drivers there. So I guess a little bit of give and take from all respects. So
I don't know Russia very well, but it seemed like there was a lot of Europeans at this event, like a lot.
And that's what surprised me the most, because the European guys probably had the hardest travel with getting cars over to Japan, because you've got to get them. Yeah, I'm not even sure if you put them on a boat what direction they go, but
it's on the other side of the world. I'm pretty sure. Like
that's what I mean. Like
it's almost on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to get stuff from Europe to Japan wouldn't be easy. Getting them down from Russia would be okay,
except if you drive it, because there's a guy that did it this month. There's a guy that drove from, is it Poland or Sweden?
Right across the country.
Yeah, right across
the two continents, I guess.
Yeah, and then got a ferry to Japan, and then he needed to get it towed from Japan, from where he landed in Japan to go to Ebisu. So it's not that hard. And this guy's just thought, oh yeah, we'll just drive there.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. And I think the last round of RDS was probably in. I'm pretty sure it was in Siberia, so you're already right across over the top of Asia at that stage. So it's pretty much for those guys the few Russians who did that event,
Yeah.
the car hasn't got that far to travel. But for all the other Europeans, yeah, big distance. So that's why I question they're either dudes with money or their federations. Drift communities have jumped on board big time and helped them out with that. So
Okay.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it does go next year. Uh,
I
somewhere
hope
like
they use
Vegas would be.
DOS. I hope they use DOS wherever they go.
Honestly, I don't think it really matters at this stage. I think somewhere like the fact that FD had talked about using Vegas for the final, it'd be interesting to see them take it across to the States and run it in Vegas because I think you just hit an audience that, yeah, people go to party in Vegas and just to see anything in Vegas. So
Yeah.
you just get a lot of non-drifting people potentially show up to the event, which is what drifting to me needs is more non-drifting people injecting money into drift.
Agreed.
So so yeah, either that or yeah, send it over to Poland uh under the Drift Masters guys and run it on that small indoor stadium, or not indoor stadium, but I guess the stadium, and do something like that and make a big deal out of it.
Or
It'd be pretty.
maybe they just have rounds all around the world. So they have each company organization pick up a round.
But that's it, yeah. But that's all fine and dandy, and but it's
It's
so
all like
expensive. Like
F1.
the re-
Yeah.
yeah, but F1 can't even. But F1 can't even field a full grid, and they got teams going into bankruptcy almost every season, then being bought by another company or by the same company under a different name on
Yeah.
different bank loans and all that sort of crap. So that stuff's just a logistical fucking nightmare. So um, it's that side of it to me is not worth it, and that I don't think drifting will. I hate to say it, I don't think we'll ever get to that point. Is that I don't think drift will ever have a fully international series. So
I like Damien's comment that the smartest thing you've ever said is.
I don't
It's,
I don't get how the smartest.
yeah, okay, everything else is just the dumbest thing you've ever said.
I'm just gonna go into a full down Blake and meltdown here.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so how good is DOS?
Look, so this is the point I was gonna make earlier. The
Yeah.
driving standard at that event is not high enough for it to
No.
matter what judging system they're running under until you've
Yeah.
basically got to around the top 8. And the fact that there was some weird, like I agree with you, there were some weird numbers on some of those qualifying runs, but again, as mundane as the FD camera positioning is, and it can be pretty crappy from a excitement point of view, it's pretty. It gives good information. Where I thought the D1 camera positioning doesn't give a whole lot of information. It's hard to tell how close to the walls drivers are and on clips. Once they made it to the middle, like the infield section, it was pretty easy because of where the cameras were. You could see where they had done the double lines to know where the outside zones were and all that. But the first wall run outside zone and then the outside zone just before they switched back to the left-hander was hard to tell where people actually were on the track. So yeah, I wasn't sure, and there was never a proper explanation of what the criteria for the track was. I felt from what I saw, and
Yeah.
qualifying board mid tiers, I felt like the scores took forever compared to an FD event that runs under that sort of system. Japan is, that score comes out almost instantly as soon as they can download the data from DOS. The qualifying's up, and that's where I think for a short format, DOS is great because it's pumping out the scores as you go. So it's just there already. But I think when they're trying to run a full comp in one day like they did with that, yeah, I lost my shit after a while. I thought that yeah, qualifying was almost over and there were still 2 more groups to go, so I went and yeah, tried to clean the crust out of this Z instead. So then I came back for the battles because yeah, it was boring. So yeah, I didn't really like that, and I can understand why some of these other series are trying to work out how they can either do away with qualifying or try and sort of hide it away on a different day. So yeah,
I like qualifying, but for that type of event where it's an invitational, you don't really need qualifying. I'm going to
well, it
say
has
that it's
and,
very specific though, like the criteria I'm thinking of.
yeah, and like in a season that's like an FD 6-7 rounds or I guess even right down to a DCA that is 3 or 4 rounds and 3 rounds count. If you have a shit call go against you, you've got a couple of rounds that you can potentially make it up on, and that's not a real big deal. But at the end of the day, it's one event, and if there's a shitty call, then that's it. Your event's over anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. To me, DOS or no DOS at this stage, there's still a huge discrepancy in the driving abilities across the board.
You can't say mean
Uh,
things like that.
Look, it's true, and I think it's fine.
What I
At
think
this
is
stage,
good.
like,
Yeah, sorry, interrupted.
no,
I'm sorry.
I thought the Russians did well, and I'm not surprised that a Russian ended up winning the event. I would have thought a couple of the Japanese guys would have done better, but yeah, look, their best chance put his car into the wall early, and then
What about Sunaga and Kawabata? Like Sunaga's a
yeah,
very traveled person. He's been so many different continents to do drifting. I think a lot. And then Kawabata is like accurate. He is so boringly accurate. I think. Well, it's not boring, but like
yeah, and I think
he's
yeah, yeah,
precise.
yeah, his Dale campaign of Japan, but a
Kind
little
of.
bit better, maybe. But
And
like just that sort of methodical lap
Dale has better
after lap
style
after lap.
than Kawabata because I really don't like his glasses.
Uh, you mean like personal style? Um,
Yeah.
Suonaga, I thought when he drove Russia this year and drove that bots S14 that ended up being driven at this event as well up in Russia, he looked really, really good in that car. For the FIA event, yeah, I don't know, didn't excite me as much as I was hoping that some of those guys would excite me. So I thought a couple of the European guys just a little bit more flair, and then the Russian guys were just there to win it really. So
The
and that
Yeah, but those exciting guys, they were exciting because I think they were loose, if that makes
yeah
sense.
maybe yeah
Well, they weren't consistent, and it weren't like I didn't think they were. I think part of like it was kind of like 50-50. That's why they sort of went through and they didn't go through. It wasn't. It didn't. Every run didn't look the same, if that makes sense.
yeah no yeah I definitely get what you mean. Do you think a one-off event each year like that is even worthwhile?
Yes, so that's the point I was going to bring up when I was interrupting you. Was the good thing about that type of event is it gives a chance for other drivers who haven't been forced to go and see other countries how they drive and how they can compare themselves. So like one of the examples that some people bring up is you have your little group, so it's kind of isolated. So say like Perth or Northern Territory because they're pretty isolated in Australia. They don't really
Yeah.
get a chance to visit what the southeast states are doing. So you go up and then you start drifting with those guys in that state. I'm not saying they're bad, but like Western
It's
Australia
just
has.
different.
But you get to the top of that level, but you get the top of the level of about a certain amount of people, and you don't see the rest of it. So if you travel to another place and then you realize, like, because you get to the top of you get to the top of that area and you think, okay, there's no more, I'm at the top. There's nothing to push me. There's nowhere to go. I'm just, the best there is. And then, you are there, but then you could go somewhere else and then get absolutely smashed. Everyone's level is just like so much higher than you. You might not be the case, but there's that chance where that country, because they have the comp in there and you're really good there, but you go to a different country and then it sort of opens your eyes to see shit, like there's so much more that people are doing, like car wise, team wise, like how they actually run their cars or run their team, um, and whatever. Like they don't see it, and then even to the opposite side of things, you could be doing something really good, and then you go to this event, and you'll show the rest of the world how much better, like how all this stuff that you're doing that the rest of the world doesn't even know about, because they're not looking at that sort of small area, or like, and it shows them off, and so that you can. So that's why I think these type of events are good, even though you get such a
But I
huge
think,
disparity, it'll sort of normalize things and everyone will push to get better.
but I guess then it comes back towards who should be sort of footing the bill, or who has the greatest benefit from that sort of push. So do you look at it and go, hey, look, it's easy just to use this as your hypothetical. DCA champion gets, Luca and T's DCA season is making, because Luke's listening, making a shitload of money each year. Well, it's not, but just say it was. Do they go, all right, so we're gonna help fund our top driver to go over, because we feel like by sending our top driver over, when he comes back next season, he's going to be better, and now everybody's going to be aiming for him, and that will push our standard higher?
Yeah.
Or should it be sort of off the back of that person's own personal view on it, and just being like, okay, I want to go over as a one-off. I'm going to go blow all my money to go over. And I guess, to me, Leighton Fine was a great example of this when he did the Red Bull event. Crowdfunded to help make it happen, was able to make that event happen, but then sort of after that, disappeared from the scene, and it had no direct...
Yeah.
No, like, but you know what I mean? Like, didn't have a direct impact back on the scene at home. So you could lose it in both ways.
That's right.
Yeah, you get what I mean? Like, unless that person's coming back to that country's championship. Like, I look at what Mitch is doing over in WA, and the fact that Mitch has gone over and absolutely slayed in IDC, and now he's come back and continued to drive D1 WA, and I can only imagine that that's pushed the standard of that series over there, and what the top guys are having to do to try and keep up with a guy like him. A lot of people will be like, oh, it's unfair that we have to verse people like this, but seeing those guys is how you get better. So yeah, I guess the point I'm making on that is, to me, it's a wasted opportunity and a wasted event unless those drivers from those countries are going back to their home countries to, I guess, help the sport grow. Like, how much time does somewhere like a Charles Ng spend in Hong Kong building drift, or is he busy in Japan and other corners of Asia driving as much as he possibly can, and sort of Hong Kong's his passport but not his home of drifting, really?
I know there are limitations. I can understand there are limitations, but
yeah,
it's I think there needs to be support from both sides. But I think Leighton Fine's probably the good example, like of the bad thing that could happen. I don't even know what's happening with him, because I think he's hails from Adelaide.
Yeah, he's a South Australian guy.
Yeah. So, and he's completely disappeared, I think. I don't think I've ever seen him again since.
Yeah, since that, where somebody like a Fink used it as leverage to then go and do a bunch of cool stuff, and then has come back and then helped, as much as a lot of people hate him, come back and helped grow aggressive driving and pushing a bit of driving here. So yeah, I see it from a lot of sides as to how the event can be great, but also how the event can be a fair waste of money for the most part as well. So I don't know, the Red Bull, I think when Red Bull did the event, it was such a big deal made about it that, and I guess drifting was still fairly infant at that stage, I guess. It had gone through where D1 had done their US invasion and then didn't continue there, and FD sort of took over, and then FD did their Red Bull event. And I think that did a fair bit for drifting, but I haven't gotten that same vibe, and maybe it's because it's been a format that's been tried before, or they've tried to almost go too motorsport with it, where it's too structured and not freestyle enough, like an X Games or something like that, when it comes to I guess maybe a little bit of the looseness of the event or the vibe of the event. And hey, maybe it's just me being straight up a little bit, that the Japanese culture is different on how they run their events. So as somebody who's used to westernized events where there's a dude on the microphone screaming the whole time and all that sort of stuff, that's what amps a crowd, where Japan's a little bit more humble with how they go about their announcing and all that. But maybe you just don't get those vibes when you don't understand the language.
No, they do yell at them. They do tell them the shit. They do tell them to go home.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I think more I don't know about Europe, because the only thing I've been watching some of is FD, and they're a lot nicer than the Japanese guys that I used to watch, especially things like D1 and
Are you talking drivers or fans?
No, this is the judges and commentators.
The judges.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, so they'll
maybe they explained your commentary videos.
I was quiet for the last one. I'm sorry, but no. They do tell them, like in when you say that the commentators amp up the crowd or things like that. It's not really that how you can understand in English in an FD, and they do that in D1 in Japan. So there's no real big differences there, and they're a lot more nicer these days in D1 and things like that than they used to be. Because I think to me, what my feeling about D1 is they're trying to change a little bit to expand their audience, and it's the FD audience that they want, but they're doing it in their way, not in the way that would work, if that makes sense. I think. Well,
yeah,
I don't think it's working for them. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just don't think for drifting in general that it's working. That you can't try and attract a drift audience that already exists as drift audience. You need to be trying to grab from outside of drift audience, because you don't bring in more money. Like if I sit and I watch on the same weekend D1 and FD, I haven't made either of those series or any of their series sponsors any money by watching it.
Oh, when you watch it online, yeah.
Yeah, like I've literally earned them nothing. I've cost them money by them running their stream.
Yeah, that's right.
But on their statistics to take the sponsors, I'm a number. But I'm also a number that's, you can either add them into each other's stats, or you could basically take me out of their stats, because I equate myself out on their stats. So, if you're talking unique viewers between each series, then yeah. But if D1's trying to attract that sort of audience, or any series is just trying to get, unless they can fully grab that person away from that other series and they don't bother watching it anymore, then you haven't gained anything.
No, you're just sharing it.
Yeah. So, Luke's saying here that the Red Bull event helped him a bunch. He met the right people, and that's ultimately how he landed the drive in Europe. So
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, there's good things that can come out of it if they.
Yeah. If you leverage it, but again, I think the hype was a little bit different. And I think the Red Bull event was done because it was run by Red Bull. They wanted it to be everything and more, so they went to the extremes. Rented out the dock, did all that sort of stuff, made sure cars were coming from all over the globe, where the FIA event has sort of been a little bit like, oh, let's set up and just see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll just sort of see where the Red Bull event being a promo event for Red Bull, that's a giant advertisement for them. Red Bull, more than it was for drifting, was about how the event appeared, where for the FIA event, it's about the actual sport itself. But the worst part is that sort of cuts in the spectacle a little bit, or a lot.
I thought my feeling when they announced the FIA event was, yeah, it was it's more like saying that we're the best, this will be like the defining thing worldwide, so you should you should want to come to us, and we're not even gonna bother to try and gather you together. Like this is the event, and you want to come to this, so we're not even gonna bother. Not bother, but like it's kind of it's more like
this is the
this is
Formula
a
1
privilege. This is a privilege that you have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, we're going to create for you the Formula 1 of drifting, and here you go.
Yeah.
Just go for it. Like, just it's open invite. Just put in and you can show up to the Formula 1 of
drifting.
But but it's really not like I don't know. For me at the moment, it just lacks. It lacks a lot. But then, look, it did its best to. It definitely showcased what the RDS has done this year with more live streams and having English live streams. There's always been good driving coming out of Russia. Any sort of crazy on-street legal or illegal drifting videos that make it online, a lot of them tend to be from that corner of the world. There was even that video recently, I think, of the highly modified body-wise 8.6s doing the tandem drift, and that's all legal stuff that they're allowed to shut down parts of Moscow, the center of Moscow city, to do that sort of stuff. So they're doing all sorts of really cool shit over there that in other corners of the world you couldn't even imagine it happening, not even the birthplace of drifting. Are they allowed to be that loose with it? So
it's getting very frowned upon. It's kind of like Australia, but not as bad. Actually, no, it's pretty bad. But anyway, you can't go. Can you go to jail here? Yeah, you can in Queensland for a street infringement. They've changed. Yeah, I think hooning is now a crime in Queensland.
Shit, but stealing cars isn't.
That's still a crime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Only if people W in.
How good is DOS, subject, by the way?
Luke said that the dude that's shutting down those streets is literally a billionaire. Yeah, but in a country that you're allowed to spend money to let it happen, I could guarantee, Luke, even if you were a billionaire and you went to most councils or most states in Australia, they would still tell you to go shove your money up your ass because the locals will have a whinge about it, and then they'll lose lose the next election.
Mount Gambier.
Yeah, but that's a bit different. But I meant like the
it's like when no.
I'm at the center of any major city.
Well, it's like when is it Red Bull or Forza wanted to do their video and they weren't allowed to. Oh no, was it Ken Block? So remember they were trying to do. It was Forza as well, because Forza did an Australia version or something, and they wanted to do a launch here, and they wanted to shut down a few streets and do some street events, including drifting, but they were told no.
Yeah, well, Ken Block had tried to do one in the middle of Sydney City, which would have been a great tourist campaign for for Sydney. And yeah, the New South Wales, they got all the approval from the City of Sydney Council, and then got shut down by the New South Wales Police. So because they have the ultimate say on that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, we're sliding off topic on it, but yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting moving forward to see if they hold the FI event again next year. If you can comment, Luke, do you know sort of how much of the back end of that Red Bull event did Red Bull front the money for, and then what sort of involvement was FD on that? Because clearly it's not necessarily feasible for bums on seat just yet for anybody to even justify trying to run, you know, a world championship under their own series banner, because yeah, it's just not worth the money, and they won't make a return on that sort of investment. So yeah, it was a fully, yeah, I'm aware that the Red Bull event was a fully FD event, but somebody had to pay for all the setup and all that sort of stuff. So I'd imagine that was heavily funded by Red Bull, and then I know guys were having to pay to get their own cars and stuff over there, but or to rent cars, crash them, be Irish, and then go to jail in Australia for stealing motors. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah. I thought that was a really long time between. Anyway, DOS's. Yeah, they should put DOS in the next one.
Well, look,
No,
hopefully.
Yeah.
Look, I think series are still looking at data acquisition technology, and I think even FD is still currently looking at data acquisition technology. So, yeah, I think all series are wanting to sort of move that direction, but they want to be sort of a little bit more refined, I guess, before they start putting.
Yeah, I think DOS does need refinement, but it does take that sort of
Yeah. So I don't think you're saying DOS. I don't think you're saying DOS is the best. I think what you're saying is an electronic judging system is best, not DOS necessarily.
It's not biased.
But
yeah.
currently, but yeah. You're wanting an electronic unbiased judging system.
Yeah, to a point, because you know, there's funny things that people can manipulate, and I think there needs to be a little bit of human intervention as well. So, because it's interesting, like I thought about judging and things like that. Yeah,
and we don't want to put you out of a job.
Nah, I'll just program it. I'll just put the criteria in, and
yeah, the program for you would be, you know, Michael from Driftbit creates his whatever system that, you know, happens, and then it gets easier to do voiceovers, and if on whatever track that they've been able to put a pre-programmed ideal line in, that there's a speaker in the system, or it's a subreg that you must be running at least 4 speakers inside your car with a volume of XYZ, and basically EG tells you shit if you're not doing it right. and maybe, just maybe, if you can score in the 90s, it tells you, wow, that was actually kind of cool.
Man, I've scored more people in the 90s. I've scored lots.
No, but I'm just saying, like, no, but I'm saying, like, the system will give you a pat on the back. Like, it won't just be negative. Like, it'll say nice things to you as well.
Yeah, I think my thing is 60 and above is the minimum.
No, I get that, but you're still not going to tell somebody they're cool for getting a 60. You want to see a 90 for them to tell you it's cool.
Yeah, 60 is like, meh. It's like, yeah, you should be doing that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, just chillax. Chillax, mate.
I think you can do human judges, and you can have human judges with video, like electronic telemetry and things like that, because then it makes it more defined. But I
Yeah,
think the other aspect that I think electronic judges miss is flair. Like, how do you get that sort of holy shit, that was cool?
yeah, and that's what Luke just said. Like, and that's the last little part of it that can be missed. But that look, reality is when you're talking in your qualifying system in what your FDs do, one judge is doing line, the other is doing angle, and the other is doing style. Angle and line can be taken away from a human judge. Like, simple as that. Like, that can be taken away. But style will still always have to be
Yeah.
judged by a person. Like,
Yeah.
never can you take that away. And I say never, and then somebody comes up with some sort of fucking camera that works out how snappy from the outside a car does things and all that, and then all of a sudden it's telling people how cool that is. But yeah, those two criteria can be definitely taken away from a human judge, but you still got to leave the style in there. So yeah, look,
and
you're
drifting is
advocating
about
for DOS,
looking cool.
but I think you're just doing it to be. Yeah, look, and I think you're advocating for DOS just to be annoying when you still don't believe that the DOS is necessarily the best system, but currently it's the only unbiased system.
Yeah, that's because that's the one big thing is like you look at it
It
and
can't
you
change its
really,
mind partway through.
yeah, you really think like these guys, they're just sort of they're nitpicking and they're finding little things just so it suits their what's it called, the goal or whatever. They're not being objective, and I think too much of that happens.
Sorry, I'm reading comments.
Yeah. That's all
right. Daniel, when you said about angles at shit places, do you mean camera angles or you mean use of like the car at shit angles? And then decent rate to angle and all that sort of stuff. Look, at the end of the day, if you're pre-programming that sort of thing in, like the fact that IDC does, somebody, I would imagine, sits on a buddy simulator for a while trying to hit that ideal line that they're setting. You've watched the IDC rounds where they do they've made the track on Assetto Corsa and then driven it before the round, and then there's a video of the track layout.
Yeah.
Like something like that could, if that's their ideal and that's what they think is perfect, or you can get a little bit more than that, they could. I'm sure that when the technology comes, but if anybody actually invests enough time in technology, can input that run into that technology, and that's your 100 or that's your 90, and if you can do more angle at the same speed, if not or more speed than that computer generated run, then you'll score more than that. But if you're pulling less angle, or if you're grabbing handbrake, like Luke's saying, to snap the car harder to angle, if you're grabbing handbrake to do that, the car is going to be slower.
Yeah,
or I think the car would be ever so slightly slower because
you'd
of it.
get different
so
data out of it.
That as well. Yeah. So it's gonna impact that side of it. So yeah. Yeah, sorry, I asked questions because I don't know where you guys are on the stream compared to where we're talking, and I talked about an external camera being able to do fancy shit like in China where it can facially recognize somebody and tell if they're in a good mood or a bad mood, and then it scores them based off that. And then if they buy alcohol, their score goes down, and it means they're a bad person. They get less like welfare or something.
Yeah, the social score. I heard about that this week. Yeah, that's
what I'm saying.
Crazy.
Yeah. But this is what I'm saying. That's the point that cameras are getting to now. So they can learn all that sort of stuff. So as I said, it wouldn't surprise me at some stage that a camera and a computer system can judge the style of a car because they're teaching computer systems to learn on the go as well.
Oh
Um,
man, there's
so,
so much of that shit happening.
yeah, it's fucking scary. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's insane how much, and I think a lot of it isn't mainstream yet, but it's not that far away from being like everywhere.
yeah. So, cover your smartphones. Um, yeah. So, I guess we've gone a bit of a funny direction with it, but
That's good.
this was our big topic with the FIA event was the fact that transition between your traditional going from the DOS system back to a traditional judging form. I also think DOS is a little bit outdated, the same as the human judging system was starting to get a little bit outdated because um, it just it hadn't been changed or updated for a long time. So uh,
Yes,
yeah.
agree.
Uh, Tim's asking what we think about uh, the the stuff used at the Red Bull drift shifters, the electronic sort of scoring markers. Um, I guess FD trialed a similar. No, I guess it's not really similar, but had a system for a while where when they were series sponsored by Oracle Lighting and they had sensors on corners, and if the drivers hit that zone, the lights would light up green and change color. But there was often cases where a driver had their rear end buried through a wall or whatever, and should have been uh, setting off those sensors, and the sensors weren't triggering. So I think the problem is when you start using a whole bunch of sensors, that when things start to fail, then you end up in trouble. And then if you've got to put sensors inside of cars, particularly in rear bars or in rear panels on tracks where you're running walls, those sensors are going to disappear fairly quickly because people are going to smash them out of the car. Where if uh, I guess if it's on say a GPS tracking system, and I'm sure Michael from DriftBit, I don't know if he's still watching, could tell me that I'm sure that you can position a GPS system in a car, and then you could probably tell the computer system what the dimensions of that car are in relation to where that GPS system is sitting, and you could probably work out all those parameters. Where if you then do individual sensors all over the car and one starts to fail or comes off, or one of the wall sensors stops reading, you've totally fucked up the whole. Um, you've just the whole show's slowed down because of all these electronic failures and all that sort of stuff. And that's what was starting to happen with FD, and that's why they sort of started to calm down the rules. Like even the stuff that was as basic as hitting cones and cones falling over and one getting blown over by an exhaust rather than actually getting hit by a driver and driver losing because of it. It just got all too technical for the speed of the show, and I guess that's really what it comes down to more so than anything is how the show is being viewed from the outside. And I think that's where series need to look more carefully is just trying to keep it cool, trying to keep it relevant, and trying to build an audience more so than how precise sometimes you are with your calls. Because yeah, sometimes I think shitty calls is draws more people uh, into a series as well because more people talk about it. Like reality, like more people talk about a UFC fight before the fight happens because of the amount of shit talk and bullshit leading into it than they do. People talk about it for a day afterwards, what happened in the fight, and then it sort of disappears. But if there's been drama or controversy or somebody throws a fence through another team's bus window, people talk about it non-stop. Um, and, that's it. Yeah, we're starting to get into a topic of talking different forms of drift, but if you're talking drifting on the world stage, being recognized by people who aren't drifters, I guess, and just are purely fans, that's what you need. It's a show, it's drama, it's all that sort of stuff. If you're a person on the inside that just wants to drive, then yeah, you should have the freedom to just have your head down and go drive for fun and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah. So while you were talking, I was actually going to bring up the point that Luke actually mentioned, that if you can't trust the sensors or something happens, then yeah, how does a computer judging system work? but that doesn't matter. Like I was thinking, if you, because the current judging system DOS. Anyway, just getting back to that question about, because I think to me, I read that question as being specific to electronic judging system, like at Red Bull,
Yeah,
drift
drift
shifters.
shifters.
Yeah. I keep wanting to say sliders, but anyway, with that, for me, I think with that system, it's more just about the spectacle. So it's not about accuracy; it's more about trying to get people excited. So the scores would go up, but it's not really. Uh, it is there is a winner at the end, but it's not like the same sort of competition. Like I don't feel it's the same as an FD or a FIA or anything like that. It's more like
Yeah, but at the end of it, there doesn't have to be a why.
why do they
That
get that score?
yeah, like at the end of it, and that's the biggest thing in any drift competition is at the end of it, people want to know why.
Yeah,
Where in the fast-paced nature of Red Bull drift shifters, it's as easy as because it's all happening so quickly. Oh, that person must have missed the sensor in that donut zone the second time around, so that's why they didn't get that score. Like, but it's still randomly generated based off the speed of the car, the angle of the car, and then hitting the sensors,
yeah.
or how quickly those. I think some of it was how quickly
Well,
the sensors were being triggered, which then in turn says how quick the car was moving across the
did,
ground, and then how quickly you could hit those zones multiple times.
I don't even know how it worked because I didn't actually watch the event as it happened. I just watched some clips of it, so I don't even
Yeah.
know. I just but what my assumption was it was just fairly simple. You got close to it, it registered the score. It didn't. You had some angle, it
Yeah,
registered the
but then
score.
there
It
was,
didn't.
but like a pinball machine, if you were hitting combos and hitting them quick enough in succession, you
Yeah,
would multiply your points.
yeah,
And then so if you left yourself too much time, like any computer system with drifting, if you break that combo by not hitting angle quick enough before the next area, then you sort of score resets or whatever. It sort of stops building at that stage, and that's sort of how they had that system built up. So there's that frantic nature. The drivers are trying to drive as hard and as fast as they possibly can, but yeah, they're trying to pinpoint the car. But if you go too slow and too accurate, then you're losing points anyway. So you've got that freedom to be a little bit more loose. But then at the end of the day, too, as much as you might want to win, if you don't go balls to the wall in an event like that, then you're definitely not going to win anyway. So, and yeah, miss one sensor and it's enough to kick you out of the event. So, yeah, I don't know.
For me, if the
Yeah.
sensors actually are working, because the only thing I can think of is that there's someone looking at the telemetry, and if a sensor dies, then it should read like nothing or zero. Whereas, not nothing, but like it should read like a dead sensor sort of signal rather than there being nothing. So, you know how like on a monitor, like a computer monitor, you get the feedback to say there's no signal, as opposed to a black screen when it's on. So that means that it's off, like as in it's plugged in, but there is no information coming through, as opposed to no signal coming through. I think if someone can monitor that sort of system, so at least you know that if a car
Yeah,
passes and
yeah.
doesn't register anything, it's still on and it's still working. It's just they didn't register it in that. Then that would work.
But how do you get past something like that? See, Red Bull drift shifters, somebody it doesn't work. You're like, ah, fuck. Okay, that person's going to be knocked out. They're accepting that because we've paid to bring their cars over, and we've put them in front of a world audience. We're just going to switch out that sensor now before the next run.
Oh, so
Because you
like
can't take
say
you can't you can, well no, but you know what I'm saying. Say in that like in the donut section, for example,
yeah,
there's 8 sensors. If sensor 3 fails and you can't hit combos, then as you're saying, like if they're monitoring that sensor, I come through, I've hit them all, but that sensor's not triggering. But on the driver before it was triggering, but now for me it's not triggering, and they're like, okay, we better go switch out that sensor. It's just a matter of they've got spares, pull it out, put in a new one. They're not never going to change my score. unless they
The
then decide that they're going to give me credit for it, which is fine for a demo event. But what do you do at, say, the FIA event or a
yeah,
Formula Drift or a
where it
European
doesn't.
Drift Masters? Do you give when it doesn't trigger? Like you can't send that car for another run. Do you give
Yes,
them credit? Do you give them credit for? Do you then input and say, yep, we're going to give them benefit? Do you go back to the camera at that stage and say, we're going to give benefit of the doubt because they were close enough? And then you basically trigger it to say, yes, they met that criteria. Like that's all the what ifs you start to create with
that's right. Yeah,
that sort of stuff in play.
yeah, yeah. So you would want redundancy of some sort.
Yeah, of course. But again, that comes back to that question at the end of the event, people wanting to know why there was a result or why things ended up the way they did. And if there's all these little question marks popping up because sensors weren't working and things like that, then yeah, you've started to create massive amounts of drama. And again, you're still going to have some form of human interaction where
But you'd
they
still
can
get
go back
drama
into those.
from a non-electronic one as well.
But it's more acceptable because you expect people to fuck it up. Where with an electronic system, you're expecting it to be flawless.
Yeah. So have redundancy.
Yeah. But again, you just got to try and get that message across as to, again, at the end of the event, why that result was the way it was. And that's all people really want to know.
As long as it doesn't fail, like if it really fails bad, then I think that's when you'd have something like catastrophic, because otherwise I really don't think, I think you'd be silly to like bank everything on that one system, like as in not one system, but like the system, because the system will be a whole, but like that sensor, I guess. Like you want some sort of, you'd want to think it through, like what if that failed and what do you do? And
yeah, and of course, and that's why the ideal would be a system that's run off a couple of cameras, and it's, with this new technology that's starting to pop up, like that they're using in that city in China to give people scores, that the camera technology is able just to pick up features and the positioning of the cars on the track, and rather than having physical sensors out on track, you have a few strategically placed cameras, and they're following the action, and that's what's doing the scoring. So then if one of those cameras starts to fail, you already, number one, will know if the cameras start to fail, and then it's just the processor doing the rest of the work rather than having a whole bunch of small physical sensors. It can be the camera technology and then the processing in the computer actually driving those scores and doing those algorithms rather than having a whole bunch of sensors ticking boxes as somebody goes. I think a lot of people are aware that sort of camera technology is starting to come along, like the facial recognition stuff is becoming so fine-tuned now that
I know.
Your security cameras can pick up, know the difference between EG and every other Asian dude, even though they all look the same. Like,
and a photo as well.
Yeah, like they can read depth of field and all that sort of stuff. So all that's coming. So that might be the way of the future with it. That it's just coming off cameras and then being processed through a computer. So you don't need individual physical sensors to do it. And I think that's probably when things are going to be easier to, I guess, to trust in some ways, because you're not so worried about sensors flogging out and all that sort of stuff. You just need to worry about the cameras being in the right spot and just functioning. And look, then easy. If you're running, say, 6 cameras for the event, you carry 12 just in case 6 of them break. And you're running one computer system's doing your algorithms and stuff. Worst comes to worst, you're making sure that footage is being saved with all the data that you need. And if worst comes to worst, you then do the processing on another computer, and that sort of saves you a lot of that trouble rather than chasing all sorts of individual sensors. Yeah, we're getting technical and some of this shit, but if that's the way people want it to go, then I guess that would probably be the ideal direction for it to eventually go.
See what happens.
And I even talk so V8 Supercars on the weekend. I don't know if you follow them.
Not really.
There was so when a car's up on jack stands during a pit stop, the wheels aren't supposed to rotate. They can rotate ever so slightly when you engage your gear after your tire change, but the wheels aren't supposed to rotate until they hit the ground.
Yeah.
And then there was a big protest because Shane Van Gisbergen's rotated by, after he'd done his gear select, they started to rotate again and only passed through like a third of a rotation. It should have been a penalty by the rules, but somebody else had done it earlier in the year and they showed footage of it, and his did less of a rotation than theirs, and they didn't get a penalty. So now they're talking about bringing Hawkeye, that they use for cricket and tennis, into V8 supercars for the pit stops.
Just because of
to keep an eye on that sort of shit.
That, yeah, okay. Well,
like literally, like this is the sort of shit V8 supercars is looking into to keep an eye on what is supposed to be a common sense safety rule. Like, hey, it should be the wheel rotation should just be if it seems deemed as dangerous that it should but not deemed as dangerous. But then because these guys are wanting to win championships and there's a lot riding on it for them, and sponsorship deals are riding on it, they want it to the letter of the law. And
and it has to be.
This is
worded in the correct way, and there has to be a definition. And
yeah, of course, yeah, and but this is even the fact that Supercars is now talking about a Hawkeye system. Man, it's point A to point B fucking racing. Like, you do the set number of laps, you're the first to cross the line, you win. People think like drifting is bullshit. Man, I would rather be doing drifting knowing that for whatever reason I might get bent over with no lube and lose a battle rather than doing a sport that should just be racing from point A to point B, but the stupidest little things could mean that you have to go for a drive-through. There was another incident that weekend as well where there was a car trying to overtake another car coming up onto the front straight on Pukekohe, and it's pretty sketchy. And there was 3 cars involved. One car let off to let the other car in, or else he was going to take him out. And the car behind didn't realise that the other guy had got off the gas, and this was in a spot that is supposed to be full throttle, and then bumped the car in front of him, which in turn bumped the car that he was trying to give room to, and sent that car into the fence. Now the poor guy who was third involved and did the little bump got a drive-through penalty when, you know, he was completely innocent. He shouldn't be having to think, oh, this guy's going to let off the gas to let this other guy in. He's just thinking, I'm going to stay on power because it's the power section.
Yeah.
So everybody thinks drift because it's so subjective is all bullshit. But the reality is in all forms of motorsport, there's all sorts of judgment calls made, and a judgment like that can't be decided by a computer system. Where we're fairly lucky, other than style in drifting, you can sort of be fairly technical about how you make your calls, where judgments on who was at fault on that sort of thing, or if it should just be purely said, hey, shit happens. Yeah. So we'll see where drift goes with the technology, but yeah. The other thing with it is judges are cheap. Feed you a couple of meals, put you in a hotel, or I'll pay for your hotel in Mount Gambier, and I still didn't make top 16.
Not enough cookies, that's why.
Cookies and accommodation, and yeah, look, it's just cheaper that way. It takes a long time before a computer judging system will pay itself off. So, and you can't drink with a computer judging system.
Oh, Jesus. No,
that's fun.
I think I had... yeah, no. And I had a big night once at a DCA event, and I won't do it again.
Getting too old, mate.
Yeah, pretty much. It was a struggle.
Yeah, so FIA overall, I think 3 Europeans again on the podium, which seems like the common theme for worldwide drifting currently.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And other than D1 Japan, but it wouldn't surprise me if a few of those Russian guys keep doing full seasons of. I don't even think any of them did a full season of D1, but if they do full seasons of D1 Japan, they're probably going to give even the Japanese guys a shake. So.
Well, they did. They ran the DOS system last year, and that was a
RDS.
The Russian. No. Talking about
Oh, yeah,
FIA. Yeah, they ran the DOS system, which is
Yeah.
the D1 scoring system, and they still. I think that he was second, wasn't he? The Russian guy in the 34.
Yeah, but those guys. Yeah, and those guys had all driven D1 previously, so.
Yeah, so I think they know how to. Yeah, they know what to do. They have enough skill and experience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I guess it'll be interesting to see what ends up being announced for next year's one. Yeah, look, things I do like about the event, I like the location of it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of Japan, middle of Vegas, middle of New York, middle of Sydney, whatever. I just like that it's in the middle of a city, so it's easily accessible for anybody. You don't have to go out to, considering most racetracks in most places are out in the arse crack at absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
It's just a pain in the ass. So if you're trying to attract people like, oh, I'm going to go on a holiday to the States, to Japan, to whatever, it's easy. I can go watch this event, and then I can go keep doing my holiday thing after it. So it sort of brings that vibe into it. So I like that. It being run at FIA, couldn't really give two shits about it. I guess the advantage that running under FIA has, that sort of leading to the federations, it made me laugh every time I saw it, was that on that little ad thing during the stream, it was like, if you are interested in learning about drifting, contact your national governing body or whatever. So for the Aussies, it's telling you to go to CAMS, and all you learn about drifting from CAMS is that nobody bothers to run under them, I think, other than Top End Drift Association, and not much else is being run under CAMS. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So learn that from your National Drifting Association. You want to go real drifting under CAMS? Off you go up to Northern Territory.
Oh, it's there. It's available.
But yeah, it's just funny that's how they sort of go with it. And yeah, I thought what was good too was that there was just a lot of countries involved. There's surprisingly a good number of people from a lot of countries. I think it ended up being 13 countries, 20-something drivers, maybe a few more than that.
Yeah,
I think it was like three Japanese, and then about 13 others or something like that. So overall, pretty good.
4 Japanese.
4 Japanese, okay. Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, 4.
So yeah. Did you read any of the questions on the Facebook, mate?
What's the question?
I don't know. Just they're asking when the first caller is, but we haven't
received
been talking too much yet.
I don't think I've ever seen.
Yeah, we haven't received anybody wanting to call.
Yeah.
We weren't hugely inviting with saying jump on it whenever you can, but
yeah. And then we have no idea how it was going to go. So it's more like if there was someone interested and willing to try, then we'd be good to go. But I don't know. It'd be along this subject, I guess. We wouldn't want to deviate that much anyway. So it'd only be for a quick chat. So, but I don't think anyone sort of mentioned anything. No.
Other than the fact that they continue to bring up you being a dick at first round of high tech, so.
Oh yeah, that's just a troll.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you actually listen to my video, I wasn't gonna respond, but yeah, if you want, then yeah, I didn't say everyone was shit. I just said the shit people were shit. So
That's fair.
yeah, and then if you put yourself in a position that exposes yourself to judgment, then you've got
Like
to
us
be
right now.
then you've got to take the fact that you get called shit because you are there at a competition to be judged. So
You put yourself in public, you're gonna get judged. So
yeah, and it depends how you take it. So I mean, I had a chat with Flash, I think, as well, because he was the only person to actually reply to me about that from that side of the group, where I didn't really get a response from anyone else. Oh no, I did get responses, but it wasn't really. We weren't really communicative.
productive.
Not really. It just seems to keep going in tangents, which just made less and less sense to me. But one thing I sort of said was that this is feedback. Like, it doesn't matter; it's how you take it. I think Jack Shanahan said it well as well. So if someone says something shit like this, then you can either go and get better and prove them wrong, or you can just complain about it and do the same thing. So I guess it depends how you take it. I think most people, if they get pissed off enough, then they'll want to go. I'm gonna prove this guy wrong. Like, I'm gonna show him that I'm not shit. And then they won't even say that. And then until that person actually tells them, that triggers them to do that, they could just sit around and be shit because everyone's like, oh yeah, you did well. And there's no motivation to do any better. Like, you go, no, I'm good enough. My friends say I'm good, so yeah. Like, I don't know why I don't win. I just don't win. That's it. Because, no idea. There's no idea. So, yeah, it really depends how you take it. No one knows how to call because we were expecting to call people in. I think but we just sort of put the expression of interest out there, and then it didn't seem like there was any interest. So,
Look, the internet is free to do whatever you like.
yeah. Anyway, I'm happy to give advice to people if I can, but I don't think it's expected that I pay
but
people.
Then they just but then they just understeer. Then you just cause them to understeer on entry, mate. In their Purple S14s.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. But he did sound better on entry. You got to admit that he was actually pushing at that point.
Yes, Paul. It's been nearly a year, not quite a year, and people are still upset about it. And people who weren't even, So, yes, I know most of you have moved on. So everybody else on the internet needs to get over it and move on, because I think overall the standard this year has improved. So, and that also the fact that a lot of the drivers have had to go and explore different tracks and find different ways around different tracks has improved the driving immensely. And I'm sure if EG goes to the last round and does a similar commentary video, you'd hope that his feedback is you'd hope that the feedback is completely different, because if it's still the same, then things haven't gotten any better. Whereas if the feedback's changed, then things have worked. Isn't that right, boss?
Well, I've been told to be nicer, so by a few people.
Yeah, I guess.
So, but I think it's be more specific, maybe. So, exactly.
Yeah, but you're not always that specific, so that's just you in nature, though.
No, it's just the issue is it's too long. Sometimes it's like, holy shit, there's way too many issues with this. It's like it's too slow. There's not enough angle. Use too much handbrake. Are you even accelerating? I don't even know.
Yeah, but I teach on a daily basis, and if somebody does something a bit like that, where you're just like, I'm not sure what that was, and I know you're already capable of doing it better, it'll just be like, I'm not going to say anything. Go do it again.
Yeah.
Like that. that's the feedback some of my kids get on the daily. Will just be a funny look, and yeah, let's pretend like that one never happened. Like I shit you not. If I know if I've seen better from that person, that's the feedback they'll get. Because if you break it down and get too technical when somebody's either capable or hasn't taken the time to learn it properly, that's pretty much all you can give them.
Yeah.
Without going back to total basics.
Yeah. I guess another thing that I think I've brought this up as well, was being able to do it. So if you are a judge, like, I keep using cooking as an example. So like a food critic would most likely not be able to cook as well as a chef. But it doesn't mean that they can't cook, and sometimes food critics can cook better than the chefs because the chefs are not very good. So with drifting, it's like I'm not the best. I'm not the best at drifting. I know there's heaps better drivers than I am, but I spend a lot of time thinking about it and then sort of watching people drive, and then what's good, what's bad, and so I might not drive as well as someone else, but I still can drive as well, so I can understand what things are going on. The same with the food critic is like they'll be able to understand. They probably can't cook as well, but they'll know that this is shit food. This is disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, what did you do? I have no idea you could cook something so bad. Whatever. But then it doesn't mean they're totally useless and can't cook. So that's normally the case with drift judges, but then some judges are like crazy. Like if it was someone like Luke when he does judging, because he knows, and I still consider him like one of the top drifters, I guess, in the world. If he does judging, then like if he says it's doable, and he can probably do it. So
I'm not going to read anything that's happening in the Facebook comments. People can read that on their own. Yeah, awkward task.
No, do you want me to respond? Do you want me to respond to that? No, because there is a reason why this video.
No, I don't think it's worth getting into.
No? Okay, because
no.
Be nice.
Don't even read like. No. Don't like the bringing up the first video at all is pointless. Like the reality is what it is. It's done. But yeah, to say mentioning that you're invited to the last round and all that sort of stuff. Look, it's a lot of time invested into trying to travel to an event and do all that sort of stuff. So I went out and did World Time Attack, did my video practice for everybody at home to be able to watch. Threw in my 2 cents on a few things, copped a bit of shit from a few people because they like to misinterpret what I say and then come in here and try and drop crappy comments, so I delete them instead, which is standard with what I do with that dude's comments now anyway. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, drifting is all about style, and with style creates personal opinion. So that's simple as that. Like sometimes I don't like the jeans he's wearing, so I can tell him that I don't like his jeans, but that's because I don't like his style. I don't like his socks and sandals, but it's Asian style to do that. So.
Oh yes, I've got nice socks.
You literally
and
have them on, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh
socks.
fucking hell. So.
It's so good. It's so comfortable. Have you even tried it?
Nah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know.
maybe we'll go down to the last round. Oh no, I think that's Australian National Figure Skating Championships that weekend.
Hey, they did bring up ice skating at IDC. Did you hear that?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I did multiple times.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's why I've transitioned so well. Everybody's like, "Oh, couldn't be any more different," but not really that different.
Still the same old biased judges.
Yeah, pretty much. And the Russians dominating.
Yeah.
So, same shit, literally.
Yeah. Do you wish there was a computer judging system in ice skating now?
Not
you
really,
said no before. Yeah, I know. I asked you that before, and you said no.
So we'll see.
I thought it'd go this way, but anyway.
Yeah, and look, if people get offended by the fact that
go watch Jack's video.
Yeah, there's that. Definitely go watch Jack's video. And if they think we don't cover high tech enough, number one, we haven't had too many drivers from there contact us to come on the show, and people are more than welcome to contact us when it's relevant. We bring it up, and then there are also a few people in the background of that series who we don't get along with. So it's just
100%.
Look. At the end of the day, this is
it's
our
not
platform.
It's not the series as well. It's so don't feel bad if you're in the series. It's just particular people.
Yeah, and it's not even like I have huge respect for Dan Mackey for what he's done in the last few years and the amount of energy that he's put into that series, continuing to breathe life into that series. He's going to be, a dude that continues to try and strive forward when all that he gets is people shitting all over him as he's trying to push forward. So huge respect for him. But there are just a few other people in the background of that series that I'm not really willing to support. I think EG's sort of in the same boat with that. But a lot of drivers, I get along really well with I would say 95% of the drivers in that series, 98% of the drivers in that series. So it's nothing against that. It's we're 40 episodes in. This is our platform. It's built us some good connections, destroyed some other connections. I think it's given people some value to listen to, and some people listen to one or two and haven't bothered catching up. And I even had Jason Bay to message me the other day and be like, "Oh, this episode blah 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 is really funny," and I'm like, "Man, we've done it's in the hundreds of hours of of videos now. I can't remember half the shit that was said. You sort of remember your significant moments like Jack's rant and sort of the attitudes of guys like Troy Lipshinsky. I'm being a little bit reminiscent here with what we've done so far this year, and you sort of get those vibes and the energy that are coming from those guys, and that's what you take home from these episodes from this side of the production, because you don't really get to sit and process as much as just sitting back and listening. So this is our platform. We sort of use it for it can be a little bit biased because it's ours. We sometimes, when we first started the show, I think the first couple of episodes were like, shit, we were hoping to be a little bit more different viewed, like be on different pages to each other, but we aren't that different on a lot of topics, or we sort of see reason with each other on things. So that's made things a little bit difficult sometimes, but the fact that EG doesn't follow enough other stuff sort of makes it interesting because I have to explain shit to him.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually. Yeah, even like when I was thinking about, remember how we did that World Time Attack thing? The pool, like we did just how So when I added up the scores the second time, it was like proportionally opposite to how long you've been drifting. Because you've been drifting the least out of yourself, and then Blake, and then me, and Steve's been drifting the most.
But I would
So-
say that I've been around, like following Aussie drifting definitely longer than Blake has been around. Because I started following Aussie drifting in like 05, 06. I
Yeah.
think he's been around shorter than that. So
That's around the time, I think, when...
that you sort of started. So
Yeah, when I was like...
or you've been in a little bit.
Yeah, I went to Oran Park in 2006, and I think that was the first time I watched... No, it wasn't. It's 2006? Yeah, 2006 or 5, the first time I actually watched a drift event here.
And who would have thought 12 years later I'd be sitting here speaking to Stinky Poo Poo from the IDA forums?
Yeah. Those forums are backed up, They're still saved somewhere.
But yeah, I don't know. I've sort of seen it transition, but haven't been in the driver's seat. So
Yeah. Oh well. But Steve's definitely been around a long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yep, Steve definitely has.
I don't even know when he started. He was already like well into drifting when I started. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's why I won, and I've stayed more relevant than the old dudes because they didn't follow it that closely. Hey, and come on, if I didn't love drifting with all the shit that's happened in the last 2 years, I would have been the fuck out.
Yeah, I know. People have left for less.
Way less.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Within 3 weeks of a car being 3 weeks of a car being stolen, I've gone and bought another one just so I can try and hang out with everybody again. I'm a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the funny one was this guy didn't make it to the top 32 of a comp. It was a long time ago, and he spun. But he's like, nah, that was bullshit, and he quit, and he's never seen him again. I think it was a SA guy. He just
I don't know
like,
how many.
and-
I don't know how many times me and Danielle would have quit skating if that was our attitude towards it.
yeah.
Like,
So,
that's it. The number of times you just want to skate up to the judging panel and start pushing computers off the desk after scores come up. Put some explosive under some chairs because you know that judge is going back to the same seat the next day and all that sort of shit. So, yeah, it's all part of the fun.
Yeah.
Any other topics you want to
no. You got any messages yet?
cover? No.
Oh.
So I'm trying to secure Matt Harvey. I asked him about this week. He said he's busy. We're still working on him. He's somebody who's definitely going to be interesting to talk to. So yeah, we're pushing to try and get him. Can't think of who else we've been trying to get, but yeah, we're sort of heading into last round of high tech, so we'll probably try and grab one of the top guys. People keep saying to get Proz, but when I speak to Proz, when I spoke to him a little bit at World Time Attack Challenge, he's he just sort of shows up and drives. I don't know how keen he is to talk because he's got a pretty interesting history and going over to Asia and winning some championships there. So yeah, look, people have contacts with people. People actually are interested in coming on here. Get them to get in direct contact with us because we're more than happy to make things happen. I started an Instagram account over the weekend. If you have content, sneak previews, anything that you want on there, hey Brad, if you want to come on the show, Brad, we're happy to have you. Even though, we can't speak about the World Time Attack curse, but we can. Dale Campaign cheated on us and went to another podcast first. So I'm not sure how I feel about that.
He went there first, didn't he? Okay. No, I think
So yeah, look,
yeah, we did have some
if people have
ideas.
ideas, don't just throw ideas at us. Get in contact with the person that you want to hear from. If you think their story is interesting, to get into direct contact. Get in direct contact with us. The hardest part is normally we get to like a Tuesday night and we're like, fuck, did we get anybody? Like, yeah, shit, nah, not yet. So yeah, and we don't want to talk political views and all that all the time. You want to hear stories like Jack's story and Troy's story and stuff like that. Like that's the interesting part for me. Sort of find out more about the people that you've been watching for a long time. So if B-Rad wants to come on, B-Rad Wednesday nights, 8 o'clock. I don't know what time it is in Canberra. It might be different. Hey,
it's colder though.
Brad live in your studio. You can have Brad live in your studio, mate.
Oh, why don't you get another mic then? To try the webcam mic out.
Yeah, and so we've got that Instagram account. So
feed us
if you have
info.
little bits of content. Yeah, or if you're a member of a group and you want us to share some stuff, you have original content, we can sort of try and share your stuff on. We've actually ended up with, for the fact that I only started the other day, haven't put any content on it. We're already getting a bunch of follows, and this is sort of what the Australia Drift Seed needs, not our like the Clutch Kick Instagram account, but just more sort of into sharing within the community. Yeah, we've got 119 followers with me doing nothing, barely following anybody, and then putting up one picture of me and Easy's head, and
in a helmet. And that probably helped.
Yeah, in a helmet, it probably definitely did help with no hashtags. So if people have original content that they want to put up, or they're putting up on theirs, and they're happy for us to share it on our account too, we'll do that. We'll probably start trying to share more of the major drift associations and major groups Instagram stories. So like your Drifting SA, your Kerr Sundays guys, like anything that's actually sensible from them. Your Vic Drift, D1WAs, any of those sort of organisations running those sort of events, we'll start trying to push that a little bit on there, just to sort of, I guess give people a little bit more of a one-stoppy shop type thing. But I'm not great on the gram.
Vlogs or things that you've made, then share it with us and we'll reshare it, because sometimes we just don't see it. Yeah,
look, I guess episode 40 is probably the perfect place to talk about this, because it's a bit of a milestone, and we're not going to crack. I don't think we'll crack 50 before year's end, and hopefully we can hit hard into next year trying to use this platform a little bit more. There is the community group. I know the Maximum Driftcast one has turned to a bit of shit because they just let everybody in, so that place is a bit of a mess. But that community group is there, and if you want to share your content on there, go ahead and share it in that group. If you're a member of that group, jump in. It seems like there's a few of us who sort of share in there, and then that's sort of about it on there. But yeah. I need to actually get up on my Instagram on how to do some of the shit on there as well. Thank you, Paul, for sending that stuff through. I'll see how I can work out how to share that sort of thing. And that's what it's here for. Like, we're still always going to have our start a MySpace page. Yeah, definitely. As much as we're always still going to have our opinions on drifting, we can't have an opinion on drifting without there being drifting. So that's that's our main thing. Even if it sometimes comes across as negative, hey, what we say might be negative or might be some sort of feedback, but at the end of the day, it's for what we think, and what we think might not be right. But without drifting, we can't pass judgment or comment on it. So hopefully we can pass judgment on more Aussie stuff because there's more Aussie stuff happening. And then there can be more Mangina pictures of Ty from events. You saw that, right? That was pretty epic.
Where was it? Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did somewhere.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive.
I didn't realize it was him actually, but it was from the Spring Jam, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
yeah.
Kamikaze Boys got Manginaed. Google Plus account. I don't even know how any of that shit works. If people want to help with some of this, feel free to offer some help. But yeah, setting up too many social media accounts, there's not enough hours in the day for all that stuff. So yeah, don't pick on us too badly for that stuff. So Brad, if you're still listening, if you're keen in the next couple of weeks, we're happy to have you. Yeah, definitely in the next couple of weeks. I'll try and hit up Matt and find out when Matt's going to be available. High Tech Final is 1st and 2nd or 8th and 9th?
No, it's the first weekend
30th,
of
30th and 1st or the 7th and 8th?
No, it's the first weekend. So I think it's first. If first is the Saturday, then it's
then
that's
weekend?
when it is. Yeah.
All right. Okay, yeah, it is. So, yeah, Brad, if you want to do one of the next couple of weeks in a lead up to that final round, we're more than happy to have you come on. Even if most of our viewers don't like V8s. I'm just talking shit.
Okay. V8s.
Yeah.
It's annoying because it's cheap. It's good bang for buck, and it irritates me compared to SRs being like $2,000 for just a motor. It's like annoying.
Yeah. And yeah, we're still working on trying to get Matt Harvey on. So if Matt listens to this or anybody's in contact with Matt, just poke him because we want to hear about his Europe trip before he forgets it. And yeah, look, honestly, guys, and I know a lot of people will go back and listen to this, and I've got to try and get the last episode up on YouTube. If you do listen to this, like, even if it's a couple of months down the track, do shoot through, like, hey, we want to see so-and-so, or hey, I have contact for so-and-so, because, like, guys like, who let the dogs out, mate? That's easy dinner calling.
What's the dog doing?
You're trying to put him in the pot, mate. I can relax.
It's a big dog. When you come down and visit, you can see.
Yeah, I've seen your dogs a couple of times on one of these. Yeah, just shoot through to us. If you have contact for those guys, let us know. And yeah, it's not always competition guys. We're happy to have grassroots guys. Is EG interested in a wild card to put his talents on the line? I think the problem with
I don't think I'll get very far because of reasons, but yeah, if it's paid, it's like it's drifting. I wonder if I come out with a car though. Come back with a car.
I don't know. Hey, look, Damien, if someone's offering to pay for Aegis entry and he bitches it and doesn't show up, you've got a car with a half. Oh, you got no cars that run currently, do you?
Oh, the 32 runs.
Does it have a half cage? That's a no.
Yeah. No. Well,
we could get your SR running in. Oh no, not really, not in time.
You need a half cage. You need a half cage.
Yeah.
Does it have to be a real one?
Well, I've seen stranger things that.
I'm not gonna. I'm gonna say I don't have a cage.
All right, Damien, make it happen, mate. I need you to drive.
A cage.
I'll pay for a couple of pairs of aegis. No. I just said if you can make it happen, make it happen. As long as he doesn't need to, because he's Cam Speckett at Wakefield. Yeah, no.
That's
I don't think that's gonna happen.
not gonna. No, Jake.
Hey, if it can be made to happen, mate, you can't take a step back now.
No. What Jake is saying is not true. I don't have a cage for the 32.
Okay.
Yeah.
High-Tech's running cams. I thought High-Tech was running double ASA.
Yeah, because I thought it was a what's it called? What's that?
BAT.
Beneros? Yeah.
I don't know. Interesting. I don't know. If it's cams comp, then I'm not sure how guys are running half cages either. So, but
Yeah,
Glenn will know better than most.
Because last
Glenn
time
will
I
know
went to a
better than
cams
most,
one, they knocked back my 32 because it didn't have side intrusion.
Yeah, I don't know. Glenn will know best. So, suss it out. Find out what happens. Sometimes they just give you a suspended fine. So. They switched the last round. I don't know why series do silly things like that. I'm sure there's reasons for it. But yeah, just makes things a little bit more painful.
Yeah, I'm gonna. If I need a cage, then yeah, I need a 32 cage.
Yeah, it's
Because the 32 runs.
half cage with minimum factory
Because
door.
32 runs.
You've got a cam spec half cage in the 180, right? Just no motor.
I have I have an old cam spec full cage with side intrusion in the 180, but I need a motor.
Yeah. So if you've got an SR for EG, then
it's got to be cheap.
I've got one.
It's got to be cheap. It's got to be cheap.
No, it's got to be sponsored.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I've got
all
one
right.
sitting in Queensland, but the police haven't given it back to me yet.
Yeah, a sponsored SR would be nice because they're like $2,000 or something stupid these days.
So
I need side intrusion.
If somebody wants to put EG in a car for, hey Damien, why can't EG drive your 33? Has EG met my friend Adam?
I have, and I've already talked to him about an SR. I think I'll be stretching our friendship if I want more. Yeah, the problem is
get a half cage with.
The problem is
I'm
money.
sure you can get a half cage in a couple. Yeah, and a half cage in 3.5 weeks is probably not going to happen unless.
Oh, it depends how much money you have. If you've got money, you can get it. Yeah, but I just don't have it.
That is true. So.
Oh yeah. So what? I'm going to get it. Am I going to get Damien's car? And a paid entry. As long as he's live streaming, yeah, that's fine. I don't mind. I really don't care. If it means I'm drifting and you say I'm shit every time and I'm shit, then whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. But yeah.
I think you're onto a dream here, mate. Just got to upset a few more people, so throw.
I know.
Yeah. Hey, maybe I should go, now that I don't have a race car, I should go down to the last round, talk shit, and then somebody might give me the whole season next year. That's
right. You should do that. You should join Damien when he's judging me.
And I like how you get in trouble for your comments, yet Brad Toohey, who wants to come on our show, is throwing shade at Glenn Atkins in the comments, just being like, make sure you bring spare turbos. Just dropping it in there, mate.
That's all right.
So, yeah. So, I guess, and then the only other thing after High-Tech is if you're interested in driving the North Circuit event, get start getting your entries in for that North Circuit event. I think the early bird entries have started to close or have closed now. So yeah, 29th of December, North Circuit might be the only chance again in a fair few years to be able to do it. So get on and make that happen. And yeah, and then Spawn 2 is at Port Macquarie this weekend, which is the last drift event at Port Macquarie for the year until they go to their calendar next year, the Awesome Drive calendar for next year, plus a few other private events. So, yeah.
Are we driving the North event? I'm actually scheduled to work.
Yeah,
at the moment.
I'm planning on driving. But I'll see how this 350 goes at Wakefield on the Revo Day, and then go from there. If it doesn't have the balls to push around the big circuit at Wakefield,
I reckon it
then
would.
Yeah,
it should.
Okay. And Solly's messaging me to say about the test day at the Bend, but we talked about that at the very start of the episode. But again, just to reiterate that if for whatever reason you chime in late and then don't go and listen to the whole thing, there's still spots for sending expression of interests for the test event at the Bend on the 18th of November. So get them into Drifting SA. But yes, Solly, we had you covered. We said it at the very top of the show.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, I think that sort of covers us for the... What am I being sent?
So... Actually...
Whatever you have to say.
Alright. So is that it? Is that a wrap?
Yeah, I think that's a wrap.
Cool. There's still a bit of chatting going on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I have thought about a bottle of NOS. I watched the Monte Carlo mods thing again and was like, oh, that's not a bad idea for the bigger tracks. If anybody's finding EG a roll cage, just make sure it's for a 4-door, not for a 2-door, because EG's got to pick up the chicks.
It's also...
I don't know if that...
It probably needs to be custom as well because of some mods the previous user did. The previous owner. Otherwise, I could probably massage in a cage, but
a safety 21 cage is going to be too skinny, right, for cam spec?
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't need it.
Yeah, I think it's the tube size is wrong, and the cornering, I think where the two bars meet, is wrong as well. Yeah. Well, someone needs to pay for the materials if Connor's going to build it.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't be holding my breath, and I'm pretty sure one particular judge would probably be handing you scores of sweet fuck all. So that's a reason that I wouldn't be entering either.
Well, that's why I don't want to pay. If I'm not paying, then who cares? It's still track time. I can't go on the Fridays as well because I'm working the whole day.
Yeah, you know Wakefield like the back of your hand, so you'll be alright.
Yeah. Yeah, actually that'd be really cool. First run, just nail it.
Yeah. They'll run into the back of me, something like that.
Yeah.
EG's first run's fucking 5 meters off the wall, and everybody's just like, yeah, fucking shit.
I'm actually not that close to the wall. I'm usually about a meter because I want to take my car home.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, someone's got to cough up $200 worth of material for this cage, at least. I don't care if he gives me 0. It doesn't matter.
I don't think that person would be too fussed if they gave you a 0 either.
Yeah, Don't care.
All right.
This
Well,
would be
let's
interesting.
wrap this up.
I really don't think you'll actually get anywhere
No, it's not going anywhere. So we're just
No.
hypothetically talking shit.
because no one's going to cough up the money. So.
No.
And I've got an SR. I've got an SR to really need to put the
Rebuild.
180.
Ah.
So.
Yeah, not too fast on it. And yeah, I think that's it. Episode 40.
Nice.
Still talking shit. Still talking about dramas from way too early in the season. I think this will be the last one where we talk about it, unless somebody actually sends EG a message with his entry covered and a car.
either a
work.
car or like gear to get my car there.
Because he just spent all his money on his last trip to Japan, so and that's what he'd rather do. So yeah, get your entries in for North Circuit. Glenn said that they're filling up quickly. If you're in South Australia, send your expressions of interest for that event at the Bend on the 18th of November through to Drifting SA. I don't think it really matters. I think on the Facebook page, there's a link with an email address to send your expressions of interest through to. And yeah, that's pretty much most things for the season wrapped up, other than the last round of high tech in a month. Rally's done, DCA Tassie's done, Drifting SA hasn't had shit going all year. New South Wales, other than nothing, has had nothing going on all year. Yeah, WA's done. So yeah, ready to almost move on to 2019, and 2018 can go eat a fucking dick.
Yeah, you had a tough one this year, didn't you?
Ah, shit. Hey, let's knock on wood. We've still got fucking 9 weeks of this shit left, or whatever it is. 8 weeks of this shit left. So, yeah. All right. So we'll see B-Rad in the next couple of weeks on the show. We are still working to try and get Matt Harvey, and Brad can come on and talk about push rods and all that sort of shit. But I'm pretty sure he was cool once upon a time, and he actually started drifting in a 180 with a SR in it. So, yeah. All right. Episode 40. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. Thanks for, even if you do think we talk too much shit, you still come here and listen. So you're still technically supporting us. So thanks,
Yes.
guys. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Love you a long time.
See you guys. Where is it? Wait, you're on the opposite side, aren't you?
No, we're both. No, we're facing. Like, if you're at my light switch, then we're both together. Oh yeah, just touching hands. Good night, EG. 40 episodes have been flown by so quickly. All right. See you guys.
See ya.